While the infamous 1692 witch trial of colonial Massachusetts ultimately resulted in the unjust deaths of at least 25 guiltless people, mostly by hanging and not actual immolation, incidentally, I would like to put forward the notion that actually there were at least two young women involved that did deserve to be burned to death for what they did, and that it's a shame that ultimately neither was passed down a judgment during the course of the proceedings. Those two women would be Betty Pyres and Abigail Williams, both of whom were at the very center of the trials from the beginning, but whose names may not be widely known by the average person, even though the massive hysteria they whipped up has become an indelible part of popular history and what many people think of when they first recall what they may have learned about America's Pilgrim Fathers period during elementary school. The reason those two young women were involved with the witch hunts and the subsequent trials from the very beginning is that they were the two individuals who decided to fabricate the story that they had been hexed by the Pyres family's slave woman, Tituba. The cruel practical joke the two conspired between themselves to harass one of the already most heavily suffering people in their Puritan settlement, an illiterate, enslaved native South American woman, ended up getting dozens of innocent people executed when the pair ultimately decided to stick with their lie rather than face any punishment or personal consequences by admitting they'd made the whole thing up. Just to reiterate, the Salem witch trials didn't just pop up overnight without cause. A lot of people, if asked about them today, seem to assume it was just those wacky 17th century Christian fundamentalists overreacting as usual, or something to that effect. But let's not forget that the reason this whole thing became a serious criminal investigation was because a group of young women from the town's most well-to-do families each coordinated false testimony against the fledgling colonial settlement's poorest and most marginalized residents for nothing more than their own amusement. If today, in 2023, a pair of educated, wealthy, young, white American women simultaneously accused just about anyone else of something even as vague as leading them away with small evils and dark sorceries in the night, the person they targeted would at least be demonized in the press and the court of public opinion forever. I'd even personally advocate that, broadly speaking, and considering the social wind behind something like the Me Too movement, people making fairly believable claims of injustices perpetrated against them should at least have their accusations heard openly and in good faith. But as I see it, abusing that trust to knowingly level serious accusations of a non-existent crime against someone, no less a person like a literal slave woman in a Puritan colony, who sure as hell won't have her side of the story listened to, is one of the most definitionally evil acts imaginable. The fault of what happened in Salem certainly doesn't lie with any of the 19 innocent men and women that Pyres and Williams' lie eventually implicated, nor with any of the 5 others who died in jail while awaiting sentencing, or the one man, Giles Corey, who was infamously crushed and starved to death over a period of 3 days because he refused to recognize the legitimacy of the accusation against him. The historical records show that Abigail Williams went on to enjoy a quiet family life after the trial hysteria died down, and Betty Pyres lived to the ripe old age of 77 and had plenty of children of her own. Both lived much better lives than any of their victims got, or what either of them actually deserved for causing so much pain for 25 other families. I'm not one to necessarily advocate for the death penalty, usually, but it's not hard to think that in a just world, both of those evil women would have gotten the pyre for what they did. That's all I've got today. My name's Card. Feel free to subscribe to this YouTube page if you'd like to hear from me again. Goodbye for now, and have a lovely day.